What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. Today, we are going to continue our preview of the 2023 draft class, and we're going to go over some of the wide receivers that have a chance to be quality starters in the NFL next year. So, we'll go ahead and go through this draft class. Beforehand, we'll go over a little bit of NFL news. There wasn't enough NFL news to. All right. There wasn't enough NFL news to have a Monday podcast. So the mandatory mini camps and whatnot are basically over now. There were some that finished this week, but basically over. So they're going to have a couple weeks before they have to start coming for preseason. So there's not going to be much news other than maybe some contract talks. So I got a couple things I want to go over. First off, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety from Alabama. He can play all around the defense, was drafted in the first round by Miami and then traded to Pittsburgh, has signed a 4-year deal. I don't remember what it was off the top of my hand, but it was a 4-year extension, and he got good money. I think he was the number one paid safety now, maybe close to $20 million a year, something like that, between 17 and 20. So good for him. He's a very talented guy, and I couldn't be happier for him. Second news is Ron Rivera had to go up in front of the media and basically said, we are not trading Terry McLaurin. Again, Terry McLaurin is a guy that's on the last year of his contract, and he's going to need a new contract. Most likely it's going to be around the same amount that A.J. Brown got. But anytime you have to talk about not trading your star wide receiver, it's kind of a little questionable on if you're actually going to trade him or not. That's just kind of how I took it, was like, oh, really? Because he didn't say, oh, we love having him here, we're going to do anything we can to get him to stay. It was just, no, we're not trading him. And that's it. That's basically it. So I kind of put a red flag up, and so we're going to have to see what happens throughout the rest of this season. But I still do not put it out of the realm of possibility of seeing a Terry McLaurin trade. I think they'd be foolish to do it. Why not pay him $20 million a year? I think, he's 25 years old, and he's probably a top 12 wide receiver in the league. You can make a case for, so why not pay him $20 million a year? I don't see anything wrong with that, but we'll see. We're gonna keep watching out for that. The last little bit of NFL news is that there's a rumor going around, apparently, that Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers are rushing to get a deal done to trade for Baker Mayfield. That franchise right now, at least, is Griffin. Come on, buddy. It's a bit of a dumpster fire. The cats are attacking. It's a bit of a dumpster fire situation, I think. When you go out in public and say that you don't want Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield says that he doesn't want you, and we don't need a quarterback, we got Sam Darnold, he's our starter, and then you draft draft Matt Corral in the third round. I thought that was fine, but then all of a sudden you're scrambling for Baker, and I honestly think that they probably are scrambling, trying to get something done with Baker Mayfield, and I don't know why. I think they're foolish with doing that. And I honestly think Matt Rule doesn't want to be there. I would be surprised if Matt Rule makes it through the season to get fired. I think he's gonna leave or get fired in the middle of the season. They set up Sam Darnold to fail, and they're gonna set up Matt Corral to fail. And if they get Baker Mayfield, they're gonna set up Baker Mayfield to fail. That's really how I feel about that. And obviously Baker doesn't want to be there. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to be put in that same situation. But yeah, it's what are you doing? Why did you not try to make this trade earlier? Why all of a sudden now you're rushing to make the trade? So we'll see if they actually end up trading for him. If Baker refuses, if this is all just a rumor, I don't know. But we'll end up finding out a little bit more later on in the offseason. All right. So that's all the NFL news that I was thinking about for the past week. So we can go ahead and get into this rankings. I'll go ahead and share this screen. And we can get into it. So, okay. So we are previewing the 2023 wide receiver class, continuing on the series where we look forward to the next draft class. This is part of the summer scouting series. And let's get into it. So we're going to start off with kind of the tier 5 honorable mention guys that I really, really like, but I don't know if they'll leave this year is basically the thing. They might stay for one more season, just until they move up the rankings a little bit. So we'll start off with Dontavion Wicks from Virginia. He's 6'1", 205 pounds. He's going to be 21 years old in the middle of the season. And last year he had 57 receptions, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 21 yards per catch. So, he's really a deep ball guy, which he doesn't really have he doesn't have a body for contested catches, but he makes some good contested catches. He's a speedster. He'll do a little bit underneath, but for the most part, he's going to be a field stretcher for whoever's team he goes on. So, getting into another guy that I really like that I want to see more of this year, is basically the same thing. Tyrese Chambers from FIU. He's 22 years old right now. Going to be 22 throughout the entire season. He's 6'1", 185 pounds. And again, some of these numbers I am not too sure about. I would not be surprised if he was actually, 6 foot, 5'11", 170 pounds, because he looks small. He really does. He looks small when he plays. But he had 45 receptions last year for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, which was about 24 yards per catch. So, a yak monster. No, baby, stop. A yak monster, really, and a speedster. Someone that he can do a lot on bubbles, and he can do a lot just deep down the field. So, a really, really underrated guy that I think, if you get to watch games on Thursday and Friday, look for FIU, Florida International, because this guy's gonna, when he catches a ball, he's probably gone no matter where he is on the field. The next guy I want to get into is Raheem Jarrett. He's from Maryland. He's 20 years old. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, and he is shifty. This guy is really, really shifty. He reminds me of any of those guys you want to talk about, like a Tyreek Hill, a Sky Moore, Steve Smith, Kadarius Toney, any of those guys. You think about those guys, that's what he reminds me of. He doesn't do a lot down the field. He's more of their underneath guy. And he still went for 62 catches, 829 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 13.4 yards per catch, which, I mean, looking at these guys with 21 and 24, 13.4 doesn't sound great looking at those numbers, but 13 yards per catch is really good. And especially with the amount that he has to do after the catch just to get to the 13 is very impressive. So he's another guy I'm excited. Honestly, I put out a tweet earlier today. I'm very excited to watch Maryland football this year. With Tua's little brother, Talia Tagovailoa at quarterback. They got Jacob Copeland, transferred wide receiver from Florida. They have Raheem Jarrett, and then they've also got another guy that we're going to get into. Yeah, we're going to get into him on this next tier, is Dante Demas. And they've got some guys on offense. This offense is going to be very powerful this year. So I'm excited to see it. Let's go on to the next tier. Tier 4. Oh, actually, I guess he's in tier 3. Yeah. Okay, so tier 4, we'll talk about it. Jacob Cowing from UTEP. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. He's a smaller frame. He's 22 years old. But, man, this guy, again, is a slot receiver that gets after it. He creates separation. Super shifty guy. He's got pretty good hands as well. So, again, 5'11", 170 pounds. He's going to be 22 this year. And last year, 69 catches. Nice. For 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 19.6 yards per catch. The next guy is a very intriguing guy. Keaton Thompson from Virginia. So he was a 4-star quarterback prospect, and he committed to Mississippi State. Sat at Mississippi State for a year, and then transferred to Virginia. He also switched to wide receiver. So he's 6'4", 210 pounds. He's 24 years old. Because he did sit for a couple years and then transferred and switched to being a wide receiver. But they use him a lot as a wildcat quarterback, wildcat running back. So he runs the ball, he catches the ball, and he's a pretty good, pretty decent quarterback on trick plays as well. But last year, 78 catches for 990 yards, 2 touchdowns. I would love to see him get a couple more touchdowns this year, but 12.7 yards per catch. I don't have his total all-purpose offensive yards on here. That's just his receiving yards and his receptions. But again, you think of a guy like Treylon Burks last year. I think Keaton Thompson can kind of be that Treylon Burks guy this year. So again, he's 24 years old. So by the time he's a rookie, he might be 25. But again, Velus Jones Jr. from Tennessee last year, I believe he got drafted in the 4th round, and he's 25 right now before the season even starts. So I'm not too worried about his age, but I don't think he's going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick, no matter what he really does this year. Okay, going into the next group of wide receivers. Again, Dante Demis, the dude from Maryland that I was talking about. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, very big body receiver, very contested catch, strong at the top of his route. He creates separation as well. I don't want to make it seem like he doesn't create separation because he's 6'3", 220. He's pretty fast for 220. At least on field, he looks fast. He's 21 years old. Last year, 28 receptions for 507 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 18 yards per catch. But the only big problem I have with him is he's got injury concerns. All throughout high school, he had injuries. And now in college, he kind of hasn't been able to catch a break. So he's a guy I'm very intrigued with. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to have a monster season. And if he will end up getting drafted. I don't know where, but whenever he's on the field in the NFL, he's going to put up big numbers. He can compete with anyone when he's healthy. So I'm expecting a big year from Dante Demis. And if not, it's most likely due to injuries. So next guy, Jermaine Burton from Alabama. He was originally at Georgia. He actually won a national championship at Georgia last year and then decided to transfer to Alabama, who they beat in the national championship last year. So he's 20 years old. He's going to be 20 throughout, I believe, half of, I think September or November, he'll end up turning 21. But yeah, he's still young. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, blazing speed. If you remember what Jameson Williams did this year for Alabama, he's literally going to step in and do that exact same role. It's a deep threat guy. He's a burner. He's got good hands. And he can create a little bit after the catch, but he's mostly he's going to be your downfield guy. So last year, 26 catches for 497 yards, 5 touchdowns. And that was with 19 yards per catch. I think he goes over 1,000 this year. I think he probably goes for 45 catches for 1,100 yards, something like that. So, all right. Going into the tier 2 wide receivers, we are going to start out with Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. 5'11", 180 pounds. He is only 20, so he can still put some weight on. I'd love for him to be 5'11", 190 and still be able to move the way he moves. He's fast. He's fast. He's shifty. He's got it all. If he could put on another 15 pounds, I think he could play inside and outside. Right now, I strictly see him as kind of a slot guy, but he's a burner. He can move up the seam. He can catch bubble screens. Last year, he caught 32 passes for 705 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 22 yards 22 yards per catch. So, again, he's got really good speed, and If you end up missing him on the first tackle, or he creates a little bit of separation and he gets the sideline, he's gone. He's gone. You're not going to catch him. No one in the Big 12 could catch him. So, again, if no one in the Big 12 can catch him, most likely there's not too many people that'll be able to catch him in the NFL. So, my next guy, Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. Again, he's a little bit older, but again, he's 23 years old. He's going to be 23 all the way through the draft. Last year, 64 for over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, about 17 yards per catch. Again, he's got his same quarterback. Hendon Hooker ended up coming back. I think he's going to have a monster year. Again, it's just another year of them both learning Josh Heupel's system. And I think he's going to probably duplicate this number, if not increase the number from last year. So I'm really expecting to see a lot of good stuff from Cedric Tillman. Josh Downs is a wide receiver, slot receiver from UNC, North Carolina Tar Heels. He's 5'10", 180 pounds. He looks more like 170 on film, but he did a lot of work with Sam Howell. Most of Sam Howell's production, where he rolled out, because again, the offensive line was not very good. He didn't have very many weapons other than Josh Downs last year. So he did struggle a little bit, but whenever he got out of the pocket, Josh Downs was always the guy he was looking for. So last year he went for 101 receptions, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. And that's 13 yards per catch, per completion. He's a slot receiver. He's not going to play on the outside. He's a slot receiver. He's got good enough speed, but he's more of a route technician. Really smooth hips, smooth feet, great hands. I don't think he drops too much. I think he's just kind of a smooth operator is what I want to call him. So Josh Downs from UNC, very, very good slot receiver. I could see him being a successful slot receiver at the next level as well. All right. Now going into our tier 1 wide receivers, I guess we'll start off with the Biletnikoff winner, Jordan Addison from USC. He was at Pitt last year. Again, a lot of Kenny Pickett's production came from Jordan Addison. After Kenny Pickett left, went in the first round. Jordan Addison decided to leave. He's at USC now with Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, the quarterback. He's 6 feet tall, 175 pounds. He's 20 years old. I believe he'll turn 21 in the middle of the season. But last year at Pitt with Kenny Pickett, he went 100 receptions, almost 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns. So I don't want to say he'll do the exact same thing this year, because I think his receptions are going to go down. Again, I think he was targeted, 145 times last season. That offense passes the ball a lot at USC, but they've got some other weapons that they're going to be able to get the ball to. So I could see him getting 100, I could see him getting 70. I could see him getting 60 catches for 1,000 yards, 60 for 1,000 and 9 touchdowns. 60 and 1,000 and 12 touchdowns. And again, that's nothing against him. That's not saying that he has a bad season. That's a really good season, especially moving to an offense that's going to have a lot more weapons. But he could end up duplicating this last season, but I don't think so. I think he's going to have a better season, but his stats aren't going to look as good, if that makes sense. So a more efficient season. I think he's going to crisp up his routes a little bit more, but I don't think he's going to touch 100 receptions. And if he does, I'll say I'm wrong, and he'll be a first round pick. So, the next guy, Quentin Johnston from TCU. He is 6'4", 200 pounds. 6'4", 200 pounds. He's only 20 years old, so I could see him going back to school. But man, he's really, really smooth runner. His IQ's super high. He's very aggressive, very physical at the catch point. He's got really good hands. And I think he's only going to get better as he gets bigger and as he, has more downs, basically. because he's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's going to put on a little bit. He's only 20 years old, so he's going to put on some weight. You know, he's going to put on some grown man weight. And I could see in 2 years, he's 6'4", 220 pounds and still have the same speed. His speed's not bad. He's got good speed. He's got long arms. And again, last year, 33 catches for 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 18 yards per catch. I think he doubles that this year. I honestly think he can double that this year. I'm not sure who his quarterback's going to be, but he's good. I believe in him. I think he doubles that this year. And if I was him, and I think he could be a top 50 pick, especially if he has the year I think he's going to have. So TCU and Quentin Johnston is someone I'm definitely excited to watch this upcoming season. The next guy, I really like this guy, A.T. Perry from Wake Forest. He's 6'5", 210 pounds. He's 22 years old. Last year, he had 71 catches for 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 18 yards per catch. He's got everything you want. I've said Jordan Addison runs good routes. I said Quentin Johnston runs good routes. A.T. Perry runs really good routes. Crisp underneath routes, over the top. He can run post routes. He can run bubble screens. He can run comebacks. Basically everything you want him to run. He's physical at the catch point. Again, you talk about guys like a Treylon Burks or an A.J. Brown. I see him being like that. But I don't want to say more physical than A.J. Brown, because A.J. Brown's very physical. I think he's kind of in that A.J. Brown mold, but a better A.J. Brown, Treylon Burks, but a much better route runner. So it's exciting to hear that. I think he could be a first-round pick. I think we might have 3 to 4 first-round pick wide receivers, and I think he could be one of them this year. So getting down to our last 2 wide receivers, I have these in the first-round lock categories, just because these are guys that are getting a lot of juice, and I'm almost positive if they have the year that I think they're going to have, they will be first-round picks. So without further ado, here are your first-round lock wide receivers. So Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. I know everyone thinks that Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were so good at Ohio State, and they were. I'm telling you, this season for Jackson Smith-Njigba might be better. It just might be better. CJ Stroud's going to be better. Again, there's Marvin Harrison Jr. that he's going to be going up against, but he can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. I think he's better off in the slot, but he can play all over. Very smooth route runner. You think of a Cooper Kupp. He runs routes like that. He's not the fastest guy, but he's got good speed. He hits all the gears as quickly or as efficiently as he can. And he's just so smooth. He knows how to work the defender, when to find the blind spots in the route, and then quickly cuts back the other way. He runs everything the way you want him to, and he's only 20 years old. His brother, Cameron Smith-Njigba, is an outfielder for the, I believe he's in AAA in the Pittsburgh Pirates system. But super athletic family. Last year with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end, he went for 95 receptions, 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 17 yards per completion. I think he's going to I don't know. I think he's going to go for more. I want to say 100 receptions, and I think he should, especially since he doesn't have the amount of competition for targets. And I think CJ Stroud is going to throw the ball so many times, because why wouldn't you? He might hit 115. He might hit 120 receptions this year. He might go for 2,000 receiving yards. I don't know, but I'm very excited to see what he does this year, because I think he could be a top 10 pick. I think he can go higher than Garrett Wilson. And in 10 years, if you ask out of those 3 who had the best NFL career, I would probably put my money on Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's how much I like him. So now switching over to Keyshawn Boutte from LSU. He's 6 foot tall, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. So he is smaller, but he is only 20 years old. He's had some injury concerns with his ankles, and I believe he also tore an ACL. But he's explosive, and he's very, very tough at the point of at the catch point. And even for 190 pounds, which I think he's actually more like 180 pounds, he he's physical, and he can break a couple tackles as well. Last year he went for 38 catches for 500 yards, 9 touchdowns, and then that was only in 6 games though. He did that in 6 games, and then I believe he tore an ACL. So that's the one thing that I am concerned about with him is his injuries. But if he has a year this year where he plays all 12 games, I think he's a first round pick because he runs better routes than everyone else in this class. He's not faster than everyone else, but he's got really good speed. His hands are as good as everyone else in this class. And again, he's only 20 years old. So I think he's my number 2. I still like Jackson Smith a lot. I like A.T. Perry a lot. And I also like Jordan Addison a lot. All 5 of these guys, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, A.T. Perry, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Keyshawn Boutte, all 5 of those, I can see all 5 being first-round picks. I can see 2 out of the 5 being first-round picks. I can really see it all. I think all of them are going to have super successful careers. So that is all I have. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I appreciate you guys listening. It was only 20 minutes, so that's pretty good. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter, just so we can get in and get out. I think people will appreciate that a little bit more than me just ranting and rambling about certain prospects. So as my cat walks by to say goodbye, I will say goodbye as well. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and next week we will meet up to talk about we'll skip tight ends and we'll go straight to the tackle class because I know everyone's going to love the tackle class. So thank you.